Join our knowledgeable hosts as they dive into the captivating universe of comic books, movies, TV shows, and pop culture. Get ready for vibrant discussions and a shared enthusiasm for all things superhero and beyond. A comic podcast straight from the panels. This is Beyond the Capes.
All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Cape. With us today is Jonas. We are here to talk about his book, Ship of Fools, on Kickstarter, live now. This is being brought up with Iron Circus. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
All right, we're happy to talk about this. This is going to be a great book for everyone listening. This is a book for our more mature readers. Some of the information, some of the stuff, the storyline we're going to talk about is for a little bit more adult audience. So if you are young or you cannot listen to this right now, give us a pause, come back later. You're going to enjoy this episode. That being said, here we go. We're with Jonas. I like to ask every artist when they come on, of everything you could have possibly done, of all the options we have in this world, why this medium? Why comic books? Why graphic novel? Why did you find this?
Yeah, I guess I ask myself that a lot as well. I guess I process a lot with art, and I like to tell stories, and I can sometimes do both at the same time and come out of that with a little bit of a clearer idea of, I don't know, something I've been chewing on. And yeah, telling stories is really fun. And if you're doing comics, it's super accessible. All you need is paper and a pen. And sometimes, I don't know, like collaborating with other artists can be tricky. And if you're doing comics, that's the easiest thing you can rock out on your own.
Definitely. Now, so growing up, would you say that this has always been kind of for you something that kind of came naturally, or was it something acquired later on, just writing stories, or did one come maybe be more where you were doing more art and then the stories followed with it?
I don't know. I would always like play with comics. I think I was more interested in um, animation and illustration growing up, but as soon as I hit high school, um, I feel like a lot of comic artists will dabble with like autobio comics,
Yeah.
and I was in high school. Gosh, I'm graduated 2009, so that was kind of when autobio comics were at their most uh, like you couldn't escape them. And I mean, there were tons of bad ones out there, and mine was right out there with them. So that kind of gave me like a nice testing ground for
Yeah.
what worked, timing, framing, and all of that. Um,
So you kind of dabbled in
yeah,
both then, so it sounds like.
yeah. I like I don't know, trying to like live an interesting story, and like whatever some tragedy would befall me, I'd be like, oh man, uh, how am I gonna spin this one? Yeah, learning how to craft things. It
Yeah.
was fun for me. Puzzle solving.
I mean, it worked out. Obviously, you're here promoting a book, so I mean, it was definitely the right path. Which I'm glad you said you graduated in 2009. I graduated in 2008.
Ah, nice.
So, and it was really interesting too, because I feel like we're in comic books, we're on that second wave of a lot of us 90s kids that grew up with Batman the Animated Series, X-Men, and we kind of got a dose of our fate, where like our parents and whatnot, or people we knew grew up with just comics. We got animated shows. We got the first movies. I remember the first movie I think I saw was Spawn. which was the first time I saw a comic book come to the big screen, at least for myself. So it was an interesting time. Do you think any of that kind of shaped any of your style or the way you process things within the medium?
Um, I was growing up on. I never really got into hero comics so much.
Okay.
I had like the weirdest like it was like Tintin and
Yeah.
Archie and
Tintin was a great show for anyone listening that has never seen it. Not the comic books and the TV show were so good.
yeah. Um, Man, I don't know. Hellboy was kind of like one of the first um, one of the earlier comics that I picked up, and I was like, oh, this is for me. This is me for sure. Um, I got a little bit into Tank Girl, but Jamie Hewlett's other projects, like Gorillas, was really kicking off around that time too. And um, I don't know, following his work, he was a big inspiration. I feel like,
Yeah,
yeah, those were some of the more like graphically impressing forces out there for me.
definitely. And I mean, I think it's weird too when I think about how many outside influences that we did have, that I always never knew that were comic books until later on. The only one I knew was a comic book for sure was Tales from the Crypt. My uncle was very big on showing me EC comics, which unfortunately has shaped me for all the horror movies that I watch today. Uh,
Yeah.
Tank Girl, I think, was always the one that surprised me because that was another movie that my dad said, "You're going to love this." And he never told me it was a comic book until I think I was at a comic convention. I said, "Oh, wow, they made a movie and they made a book off the movie. That's crazy." And then I was like, oh, all right. Well, someone lied to me and did not tell me the information. Yeah, it was an interesting time. I think for us growing up, there was so much of that medium. And it is weird because I feel like now it's strictly, as we've seen, kind of gone to more you're either Marvel or DC, and that's a lot of our big focus. I think a lot of indie stories kind of fall by the wayside. They don't get as much attention unless you look for it. I don't know if you feel that way as well, or it's hit or miss.
Yeah, there's like I don't know. I really surround myself with if I'm attracted to indie comics, it's indie stuff.
Yeah,
So uh and then also like the porn genre
yeah,
is kind of like fun. The surprising jewels that are in there. Like, obviously for the, the perks of that genre, but um, yeah, there's like a lot of story and creativity to be found there.
which is interesting for this story, because I was reading it, and I'm really surprised that we've definitely seen a resurgence of it because within like the adult entertainment whatnot in terms of the medium for our graphic novel, it's always been around. So for anyone listening, this is not new. This isn't new age. It's always been around. You may not have seen it, but it has been around. Because I was really surprised. I was
No,
really
I
surprised.
did invent porn comics. That was
Well,
all
there you
my
go.
idea.
All right, change the Wikipedia page right now.
Yeah,
I think what's interesting, I think more people should look into it, because Penthouse Comics, they just started putting their stuff out again. One of my favorite publishers, AWA, who did I think it was Red Light. They did such a good story about the kind of an erotic automaton that kind of became sentient, that I very much enjoyed. So I think you are starting to see that genre starting to come back into, I wouldn't say mainstream, but it's definitely more in LCSs. Do you think there's a reason that maybe people just finally decided, you know what, that we're in this new time. It's time to just, because it's art, it's a story. It's not there to be, like I said, frowned upon by any means. I mean, they're there to tell a story. It's just you're gonna get a little extra with it.
for sure. Um, yeah, I guess part of the appeal for like adult comics is creators.
Yeah.
They can kind of do whatever they want with uh, within that. It's getting a little bit more. I mean, there's always been some level of like repression or persecution for
For sure.
sex workers and sex content, and so sometimes comics is like a more accessible way for like people to access pornography. Um, like for myself, I was having like I kind of entered like the comics industry um like for real around 2017
Okay.
with like Godshaper, and that was through Boom Studios.
Yeah.
um and I felt kind of like limited
Yeah.
and creatively creatively. I didn't want anybody like telling me what to do, telling
Yeah.
me uh, editing my stuff, and porn was like the perfect genre because like nobody's like they don't care if there's like
There
weird
are no, yeah,
grammar or
there's no
like
rules. I mean,
yeah,
yeah,
cyborgs can make out with uh, like reanimated monsters. It's fine as long as you got those like important story beats in there.
exactly.
Uh, yeah, very hands off. So I think that's mostly what drew me to that genre, and then all of the privileges that uh, come along with that. Like I can collaborate with anybody I want. I can tell the stories I want,
Yeah.
um, and yeah.
Yeah. Just freedom of expression. Now obviously said, and we've done, we've done research. Obviously you work with, Boom Studios, as you said, you've done some work there, here and there. Um, what would you think you've taken away kind of from both genres? Obviously, we know from more of the adult side of it and creating your own stories. Obviously, there's the freedom, the expressionism, just kind of getting to tell your own story the way you want it to be told. From more of the corporate side and more of the kind of like the mainstream market, do you think you learned anything more important or tips that you definitely use today in your stories?
Sure. Well, with that more like traditional
Yeah.
industry stuff, like the format is like what 24 pages
Yeah, 22 to
for
24, give or take.
yeah, something like that. And so being able to uh, write in such a way that like you can kind of get your beginning, middle, and end in there with a satisfying hook and just enough of a cliffhanger. There's also like downsides to that, um, but I kind of appreciate having those parameters.
Yeah,
So I, even though like the people I work for now don't like that's not a strict guideline. It gives me a format, and I can kind of build my stories around that.
definitely. I would say the first time I read the preview, I could definitely tell that had a strong single issue feel to it, which was nice. Like I said, it's one of those things like you read it and it feels familiar, which is nice, especially for a comic book reader, for the story itself. Now, what's interesting is you said you started this kind of full time or fully invested 2017. Uh,
Hmm.
you are also one of those people that you get started and then all of a sudden we have COVID happen, shuts everything down. Well, what was that period like for you? Because here, you're kind of just starting, and now you're kind of there, and they're like, hey, everything's on hold. For you, was that also just a time to be like, you know what? I really want to think about maybe now more the stories I want I Want to Tell? Was that like more of a creative period for you?
Yeah, when COVID happened, uh, I was working for Slipshine, and I'm working again for Slipshine. They do adult comics online. Um, Great bunch of folks. So my work was largely not interrupted.
Okay.
Everybody around me, like they're uh, everything was getting flipped for them, but
Yeah.
since it was all digital, so we didn't really have any supply chain
Yeah.
hiccups, and I could work from anywhere as long as I have Wi-Fi and a power outlet. I'm pretty set. So um, I like things were pretty messy because I am like pretty close to Minneapolis, and then there was like the whole George Floyd thing. So
Yeah.
that was more of an interruption than COVID was, but everybody at Slipshine is pretty flexible, and like I kind of make my own schedule, and I'm constantly working. I don't know how, like I said, I process through drawing, so I don't know how to spend my time otherwise.
For sure. No, that makes sense. Also, in terms of being on a digital, which I think digital is a great thing. A lot of people can argue with me about digital comics. I think it's a great way to get kind of a lot more accessibility to people that maybe don't have an LCS or somewhere where they can buy books. Uh, do you have more of a preference if someone said, "Hey, I want you to do this story all digital," or I would give you the choice. You could also do it on paper and pen. Having that you maybe dabbled in both, do you have a preference?
Um, yeah, like I gotta go with digital. It's not an easy choice, but um, I travel a lot, so being able to work with just a computer
Definitely,
far more portable than like a big old stack of papers.
definitely. No, I think, and I mean that makes for me that makes sense. Because I can't imagine drawing out 12 panels and then forgetting that, like, oh man, this guy was supposed to have a spider on his shirt, not a fly or something. And like, all right, well, everything's gone. Where digitally, I mean,
Yeah,
it has to be nice to be like, all right, well, we can modify this line or just hit undo.
yeah. Every time there's like a software update, though, I'm like, I just look off into the woods, and I'm like, man, I could just make a break for it. I could run, leave all this behind. But
Oh yeah, I gotta imagine that's especially when they reorganize. I know I've done some stuff on Procreate, and anytime they move a button, I just say, you know what, this clearly isn't for me.
yeah,
I learned it once, I really don't want to learn it again.
yeah, that synaptic pathway is there to stay. I don't know. You
It's
can't ask it to
extremely,
change.
extremely
Yeah.
strong. All right, and before we start talking about the book, because you've had a lot of experiences in the digital, again, making your own stories, kind of seeing a lot of different ways to do a comic book. If you had to give advice or even just one piece of information to tell someone that might be on the same path or interested, and it doesn't have to be, it could be anything, like maybe, tried more different mediums of art, or maybe focus on this part of art, or, maybe on storytelling, maybe you could let this fly, but really focus on this. Do you have anything like that?
Hmm. Um, Shoot, I don't think I have really any unique insights. Um, I I don't know. Make yourself happy,
Yeah,
because making other people happy with your comics is kind of a uh, I don't know. It's it's better if that comes in second. If you're having a good time, you're gonna like it'll give you the energy
Yeah,
to
no,
keep you in the
it
game.
definitely
Yeah.
translates to the work. You could tell when someone really enjoys the project. Which brings
Mhm.
us to, I mean, the whole reason we're here, Ship of Fools. You could definitely read this and tell that you really had a fun time doing this story. For everyone listening that is curious, what is Ship of Fools? And you had to give them, hey, I got 2 minutes. We're at the booth. Give me
Yeah.
the lowdown. What's Ship of Fools about?
We titled it the Unsinkable Ship of
Yes,
Fools because that is more Googleable.
it is.
Uh, yeah. But yeah, the Ship of Fools, essentially, it's this story about a wacky, crazy road trip where people can hop on this steam train that's doing laps all over the Dust Bowl, United States, and they can't hop off. So they are stuck on this eternal, uh, they're kind of pressed into this circus that operates from the train. And then they kind of run that as a crazy little pirate anarchist collective and get into a bunch of hijinks. They learn how to live with each other and have fun in the dying carcass of a shitty empire. It's a great time.
Exactly. Because I think one of the best parts about the story that you highlight very early on is once you get on. Number one, I like that it is a ship, but it is a train. I I don't know why I found that amusing, but I
Yeah,
really I really did enjoy that part. But I think I really like the idea of once you get on, you can't get off. And there was one part in the story where I think it was with the doc, and uh,
yeah.
she was just with the one girl and said, "Hey, this person got off the train. All they do is stare listlessly. They want to get back on the train. Please don't let them." Um, and you can almost see like the pain that a lot of these people want to get off of this to continue on. They want some kind of other life where it's not just this, but they're also so enthralled either in with each other, like
Yeah.
the passion, the sex, everything on the train, and just the family that they would
Mhm.
miss that as well. And the ending, I think, really is one of the craziest endings I have ever seen. I did, I did not
You
think that
like
that
that?
was gonna end that way. I definitely had a feeling there was something darker at work because no
Mhm.
one kind of had an idea what was going on, but that was such a good ending. Uh, Fantastic all around.
I appreciate that, but that means a lot. Yeah.
Definitely. So as we were talking before, where do you even start with making a story like this?
Yeah. So this might explain some of some of the reasoning behind calling it the Ship of Fools. I I guess this is like kind of a culmination of a ton of different experiences. I did a lot of hitchhiking and living under bridges, and uh, that kind of crossed roads a lot of times with uh, oogles and dirty kids, travelers, and the folk punk genre.
Yeah.
Uh, in the folk punk genre, there's this band called Rail Yard Ghosts, and they have a song called Ship of Fools. And I thought, ah, man, this really would this would bang as a name for this
Yeah.
engine. It's like the felt like the perfect embodiment of this collision course that you can't escape from and you can't steer. Looking back through the origins of like what is the Ship of Fools, I got like introduced to Hieronymus Bosch because he did some painting based
Yeah.
off of that, um, and it goes back to this, like, I think Plato used this allegory called the Ship of Fools, to describe like a ship where everybody thinks they're the captain. And I thought, like, ah, man, that's also what a fun exploration of like anarchy and what we can do with uh, agency and freedom. And so, yeah, just finding a little thread and just pulling at it and pulling at it until you have 250 full color pages.
Yeah, I mean that was the crazy part. You put a lot of pages into one story.
Yeah.
But what's more impressive is the way that you balanced, and I don't know if this was difficult or not. You not only did you tell a story that really highlighted the insecurities and the stories of each of the inhabitants of this train and what they were looking for and what they were going through. But one of the more interesting things for an adult novel is you included probably just about every type of orientation, every type of body type, which is something you really don't see in, as you said, the porn genre or the adult comic book. Obviously, they're trying to sell, so they're going to use generally very basic body types. They want to use what sells. You were able to encompass literally everyone. I think anyone that reads this, you could find kind of your relationship or the way you identify your body type in this story. How did you manage to balance it? Because that was a lot of work. A lot of work.
uh, yeah, it was really it was like, I don't mean to sound like whatever, but it was so easy. It
Just
was
came naturally for you.
just a real joy, yeah. And I think like I would just spend a little bit of time with any of my friend groups and be like, I want to see this homie in a comic, or I'm gonna put this one, like this guy is definitely going in my comic. And I had to, like, the struggle was to stop introducing new characters because uh, yeah, I just kept falling in love with them all, and I could have easily kept this comic going for uh, way longer, but I don't know. I've got other stories to tell, so you know, you have to cut it off at some point.
Of course. Now, with
Yeah.
this story, was it easier to put the characters first and then kind of know like the general theme of the story and just let it unfold? Or was it more of this is where the train's starting and this is where it's going? This is where I want to drop each one of these characters and kind of what they find on their journey.
I had some characters like I think like Sid, of course, and a few of the others that I was like, oh, for sure, there's got to be a street medic in here. For sure, there's got to be a vampire slash werewolf uh, freak in this comic that were just so like tasty. This comic needs them. I'm not, you know, just gonna plop them in there anywhere. And then other times there were characters where like this story needs uh, some kind of like soothsayer psychic. Um, this comic needs somebody to push against the collective.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to show people struggling in all kinds of different directions, and stepping on each other's toes, because that's, you know, that's where the real juicy bits are.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I mean, I think the nice
it's
thing
kind of
is,
a both.
I think the nice thing in the struggle is you did show a lot of catharsis, like as they you did show them. I feel like most of people got a somewhat happy ending. You have to read the book if you want to find out. But I feel like you, as much as you showed their struggles and maybe some of the things that were hard for them to adapt to or get used to, you did show them getting the love that they needed, or sometimes just the pure erotic action that's what they needed at that time.
Yeah,
Which was nice. You could show both because it would have been a much more boring story if it was just a bunch of people on a train that just did whatever they want with no repercussions or no feelings. It would have been like, all right, well, I've kind of seen this story before. I think you
yeah,
definitely gave them a more humanized element that does make it easier to connect to the character.
appreciate that.
Of course. Now I know you said you had a lot more stories to tell. I think what's really curious about this is this something you would stick a feather in this story, because I wouldn't say there's loose ends to your story, but there are definitely a lot of what ifs. Who, like, do they stay together now? Depending on the ending, if they do get off the train, do they keep the same band? Do they move on? Because they definitely all had different aspects of life. Do they go back to
Yeah.
that? Is that something you would possibly want to explore further? Or at this moment, you're just happy the way from start to finish happened. And if it comes up, it comes up. But otherwise, you're happy with kind of the ending overall.
Yeah, if there's so many. Yeah, it's got so much to offer. I feel like if somebody else wanted to take it up,
Yeah,
they would have the easiest time picking up those reins and driving this for another 250 pages or whatever. I am uh, I wake up every day with the feeling of like I'm gonna die. I'm a mortal, rotting hunk of meat. I gotta uh, like any kind of closure. I'll take it.
yeah,
So yeah, I was like, okay, I got this one done. I can start on the next one. I want to like uh, I want to talk about rent strikes next. I want to talk
mm,
about um, I don't know. Yeah,
whatever
I
comes
got
to mind.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
I want to go to space. I want to do some cyberpunk stuff. Return to some weird fantasy, um, medievally kind of worlds.
definitely. Now, with this story and having so much to tell, um, a lot of people will always have a favorite and a part where they're like, I was happy to do this because it told my story, but it was one where I just, I put it down. And I was like, I'm kind of glad it's over because, I didn't like doing like this part of the design, or I just want to move on because I know there's a bigger part, and I can't wait to get to it. Do you have a
Mhm.
favorite and maybe a more like you didn't really care necessarily as much maybe about this part?
Mm. I don't know. They're all my darlings.
They're all precious.
uh, yeah, gosh, I just
Do you have a
I love
favorite
every
then?
single one. Do I have a favorite? It's got to be Sid. I feel like everybody's favorite is Sid. They're kind of one of the first uh, people that you meet on the train. They're this ratty, uh, kind of lackadaisical oogle. This dirty kid with like they've got stick and poke tattoos, addicted to nicotine. Um, just kind of takes whatever life has to throw them, and uh, yeah, just any interaction they have, like up until gosh, almost the very end, is kind of like take it or leave it. which is sort of an attitude I can, obviously I relate to all of my characters, but kind of the whatever happens sort of attitude is,
Yeah.
yeah, they're the embodiment of YOLO. So, um, yeah, very fond of them.
I mean, every parent has a favorite child, even if they love them all. So I
Yeah.
think it's fair that you have that one. So I know that we said Kickstarter is active February 3rd. We had said, so it's currently going.
Yeah, yeah. I think we're like coming up on 300% of the goal. So,
That's
Iron
awesome.
Circus has been tremendous. So they're, you know, keeping all those plates spinning.
Definitely. Now with
Yeah,
Kickstarters, one of the big things is, and I really like this about Kickstarter, is it gives you a lot of the optional add-ons and stuff to maybe add to the story, or stuff you didn't think about, or stuff that the publisher throws on. Do you have a favorite add-on with this campaign that you're like, you know what, this is a cool one, guys?
for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember if they were like trying to keep the stretch goal secret or not. Uh, but I don't know. One of the ones I love this one so much. I'm gonna do it. I don't care if, however much money we make, but like patches.
Okay,
Um,
sweet. Yes,
yeah, I made some really killer patch designs, and then also kind of, like I said, making those intersections with uh, like, I don't know, traveler culture, punks, and all of that. Uh, like I don't know. As a kid, I was just always so damn proud of all of the, my patches and
definitely.
sticking them on there with the dental floss. And uh, yeah, if somebody's out there rocking my patch from the Unsinkable Ship of Fools, I think I'd just lose my mind. So I'm gonna do my utmost to push those out into the world.
For sure, definitely. And then before we end this, and we get everyone the title of where they can find you, where we can get the book, what do we have next from you? What's your next steps after we're done and we get this? Because obviously we're already doing, the Kickstarter is doing really well. The more we push it out, though, it'd be nice to get that story out to other people. What's next after this?
Oh, I don't know. I'll just start digging holes.
There
Uh,
you go. Little
some honest
breaks
work.
and stories.
Yeah. I'm working on this comic again with this is being published by Slipshine. It's called Dogpile, and it's inspired by it's kind of this like cyberpunk dystopian sad robot-y future where people are going through a rent strike, and that was sort of inspired by like a bunch of um, like these giant housing blocks in Poland that I visited, uh, and the tenant unions that formed there after all of these like uh, community-owned
Yeah,
dwellings became like private property, and the transition to capitalism kind of created this really interesting renegotiation of what property meant. So uh, those weird little in between stages where people are deciding how they want to live, like I latch on to that.
definitely.
Yeah.
New rule, new regime, new way to live.
New rules.
New
Yeah.
rule. Perfect. All right. Well, everyone's going to be on the lookout. For everyone that is curious about this book, we will have the link to the Kickstarter in the comments. So go ahead, check it out. Unsinkable Ship of Fools, great story. You're gonna love it. Great art, great writing, all through and through. Obviously, we know
Stop.
Iron.
Stop.
Obviously, we know Iron Circus is the publisher. For everyone that's also interested in keeping up with what you're doing, where are the best places to keep track of what you're up to?
Well, I'm on Instagram and X, but I'm probably gonna jump ship from those places as soon as this book gets out. Like that's just becoming a little too wild for me. I am going to be on Blue Sky, uh, just as
Okay.
Jonas Goonface, um, and then I got a Patreon, and that's just Jonas Comics. Not very original, but does the job.
Hey, you know what? Simple is best sometimes.
Yeah.
So for everyone interested, go check them out. Stay up to date with the story. Check out the Kickstarter. Check out the story. You're gonna love it just like we did. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for talking about your book. We look forward to seeing this. Like I said, amazing. 300% is mind blowing. You guys put in a lot of hard work for that.
I know. I'm so happy.
Definitely.
Thank you so much, Ryan. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Everyone listening, we hope you enjoy. Give us a follow if you like this episode. Follow our friend Jonas. If you like what you heard here, go check out the story. Everyone listening, have a good night.